FPV is becoming more and more expensive to the point where a tiny whip of today can be more expensive than a 5-inch drone of yesterday. Well, Speedy Bee has plans to stop that trend and even reverse it with their new Flight Controller ESC stack. So let's take a look at this new product and see if this new affordable price here has any compromises. Okay, so here it is, the Speedy Bee stack right here. And not much on here, pretty simple, straightforward Speedy Bee box here, black with the Speedy Bee logo on here. You have the B. And not much information on here except the fact that you have an input from 3 to 6S, which is really good for any kind of quads. Now this comes in numerous configurations. You can get this by itself with the Flight Controller or the ESC. In this case, we do have the Flight Controller and ESC stack combo in this one box. So let's open this up and see what's inside. All right, you're first greeted with a Speedy Bee card here. Download the app. Now this is pretty cool because now you can interact with your Flight Controller and ESC with the Speedy Bee app, because this thing does have Bluetooth and you can configure this in the field if you want to. Now I've already downloaded this on my cell phone and this is available for both iOS and Android devices. Besides that, you have your stack right here, pretty cool looking, and this thing looks fancy, guys. All right, so let's pull this out and see what else we got. And then you have a box that says accessories. So let's open that up. And you're greeted with a pigtail here, an XT60 pigtail. Pretty cool for your larger builds. You have a bag here with some screws, some nuts, a big old capacitor, looks like a 1500 microfarad capacitor in here, and then some gummies for your Flight Controller and ESC stack. Besides, you have a harness on here, and this lets you interact with your ESC to your Flight Controller, so there's no wiring between the two, as well as a wire here for your VTX. This one here is specific to the DJI Air unit. So I'll be using this in the future when I use this on a build, but pretty cool that they included that. A lot of manufacturers are going with that because it makes the build easier, simpler, and less prone to mistakes. No more soldering. You just plug it in, put it to your VTX, and you're good to go. All right, so let's take a look at this Flight Controller ESC. This thing looks amazing, and this thing, as I said before, looks premium. Now what makes this Flight Controller special is all the features packed into this one board. Now as we know, this thing is really affordable. This thing comes in under 70 bucks at the time of filming, around $69. Now the first thing I noticed on this are the large pads. These are some pretty big soldering pads. Makes it easy for soldering, guys, really cool. And then you have this USB-C port right here, good for interfacing and flashing your Flight Controller. Besides that, the main chip on here is the STM32 F405 Flight Controller, really good for performance. Obviously, you have Flight Controllers with F7, but the F405 is pretty decent and can do a lot for 5-inch and under drones, so pretty cool with that. Now the grommets, as I said before, are already installed in here. Now that's not a hard task, but the fact that they already installed this means that someone actually took a look at this Flight Controller, whether it be to install this or just to inspect the Flight Controller as a whole. Now earlier I mentioned the larger pads on this Flight Controller, and along going with that are these labels on the actual board. Now because of this larger pad, it was able to label each one. Some of the other Flight Controllers just have these marks on here or nothing at all. You have to refer to a schematic to see what they are. Now this Flight Controller also has a manual online. You can take a look at it for each pad, but it is clearly labeled what each pad does, and it is very legible, guys. Now right below the processor, you have the gyro here. This is the BMI 270. More and more people are finding ways to tune with this gyro on here. Now to the left of it, you have this big old OSD chip on here, which is pretty cool. And then you have this Bluetooth chip, as we talked about earlier. That's a pretty cool thing, very convenient if you're out in the field. Most of your cell phones have Bluetooth on there. You just turn it on and you can connect to this and change the parameters on your Flight Controller. Besides that, you have a series of LEDs right here, and that will let you know the battery percentage on your actual battery. Now, one cool thing about this Flight Controller, especially of this price, is that this one here can control 8 motors. Obviously, we have 4 pads in here for 4 motors. Obviously, we're flying a quad, but if you have 8 motors or octa-quad, then you have the control for that. You might need another ESC for that, but you do have the capability to control 8 motors. A lot of cool features of a Flight Controller of this size. Now underneath here, the first thing that stands out are these 2 big old squares here. Now these are your BEC, and we have 2 of them, one for a 5 volt and one for 9 volts. So if you want to connect your devices like a DJI unit to this, that is capable. The next noticeable feature on here is this SD card slot, and that allows you to log gyro information for, say, gyro flow if you want to stabilize your image, or just to log information here to tune your quad. Pretty cool that they have this in here. Now, some of the more expensive Flight Controllers have them built into here, but me personally, actually, I prefer the SD card on here only because you have a higher capacity. You can take it out, transfer it to your computer. So that's pretty cool. Now this thing here is limited to 32 gig SD cards, although Betaflight is limited to only 4 gigs of memory. Now you have 2 big old connections on here. One here is for your VTX, as I mentioned earlier, and I'll be using that for my VTX, as well as another one here that connects to your actual ESC. Now coming to the ESC, we have this nice ESC. This thing is big and bulky. We have all this FETs on here. This thing is capable of 50 amps or 55 amps burst on here. Pretty cool, nothing much more to talk about besides that. You have these huge pads on here, really good for soldering. And besides that, you have these larger, even larger battery pads here for your actually XT60 pigtail here. And I don't know if you can see it on here, you have these 2 small pinholes on these terminals as well. And that's gonna be used for your capacitor. You can just stick those in there and then just solder it on. It's pretty cool. This capacitor actually has colors on here. Technically, sometimes people don't know which one is going to go to positive or negative, but you have a red on this side and a black on this side. And usually you can denote that by the length of the wires on here. The soldering and the job on this is very, very neat. Now, I don't have a microscope to take a closer look at it, but just based upon my eyes here, it looks clean. Sometimes you see some flight control with flux everywhere. This thing is pretty clean. Now, I don't know how Speedy Bee is doing this, honestly. This thing is obviously a great deal, this stack on here, especially with all these features on this flight controller, and to have this quality control. This thing looks really impressive, like a premium product, and I don't know how they're getting away with this low price, but I'm not gonna complain. And that's representative of the sales of this product. This thing is a new product on the market, and this thing is pretty much sold out everywhere that sells these. So if you can jump on this, I would highly recommend you get one, because this might be the hottest product for 2022 and 2023, especially if you intend to build the drones yourself. Let's take a look at the app and see how this thing connects to it. This is my first time gonna be powering this up. Let's pull out the Speedy Bee app. I have my cell phone right here. As I said, this thing is available for iOS and Android. All right, and it's as easy as, guys, just scanning this barcode. I already have the app, but it's as easy as just scan this thing right here. Boom, tap to scan. All right, show options. I'll just go to the website. There you go. Pretty cool. And you have some of their products in here on the website, as we talked about earlier. Now, they also have the Speedy Bee adapter right here, but if you have Bluetooth on your actual phone, then you don't really need that. So let's go back here. All right, get started. And then you also have other flight controllers on here. So we want to choose their flight controller, which is right here. Let's power on this flight controller first. All right, Speedy Bee. Now it's searching. It found Speedy Bee F405 And there you go. You have the Speedy Bee app, which is almost like Betaflight. That's pretty cool. So let's see if I move this. There you go. It is connected. This is the front. And you can see everything on here. Pretty darn cool, guys. Go here. You have all these filter settings in here, like presets. Quad X, you can reverse your motor direction, which is pretty cool. Now, does this tell me the Betaflight version on this? It does. It says it right here. Betaflight 4.3.1 to the latest, actually. All right, black box. So SD card, it knows that. There's a lot of features in here. CLI, wow, just like Betaflight. So the Speedy Bee app is pretty cool. Let's shut this down. Woo! This is a pretty cool flight controller, guys. I'm excited to have this in here. This thing is full of features. Now, as I said before, if you don't need this big old ESC, you can buy this separately, whether it be the flight controller or the ESC if you need it individually. But does this live up to the promise that Speedy Bee said? Well, yes, this thing is super feature packed, and the price is super affordable. Probably is just too good to be true, guys. So having said that, what are my plans for this nice flight controller ESC stack? Well, I have a pretty cool Vesta here for it. This is a pretty cool frame here, guys, and we'll talk about this in the next video. So if you want to see more about this frame or about the build as a whole, hit that subscribe button there for you to be notified whenever I do drop that video. Besides that, I've left links to this product here down below. Take a look at it, guys, and as I said before, this thing will make your build a little bit more affordable, and the feature set on this is probably too good to be true. So if you have the chance to pick this up, I would highly recommend you buy one and even save it for your future builds, which is what I did for this frame right here. So anyways, thank you for watching, and I will see you in those next video. Peace.